Hey, welcome back. Today we're talking with Dr. Sandy Payton, who is independent optometrist in Boston and has done that for over 10 years. So, Sandy, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy day to talk with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So, tell us, we were chatting before, but just tell us a little bit. I think you had an interesting story about how you landed in optometry as opposed to another medical field. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you chose this field over the others.
Well, I always knew that I wanted a DR in front of my name, just didn't know what kind of doctor I wanted to be. So I did go to Framingham State College, now it's university, of course, and I majored in pre-med biology. And I took some years off after I got my bachelor's degree to see kind of what I wanted. So I did some research at the Mass General Hospital in Alzheimer's disease. So some of the doctors there doing their own field in Alzheimer's disease. I work with a couple of doctors who work on therapeutics. And one doctor brought in some eyeballs and said, it might be some plaques in the lens of our eye. So I cut open some eyeballs. I said, this is a pretty good organ. So that's how I went into optometry school. I cut open some eyeballs.
Cut open some eyeballs. That's great. So you got into there now, and now you're talking about like before you said you've always been independent since you graduated optometry school, right?
Sometimes did some fill-in work for other doctors.
Sure. Okay. And now you work. Did I have it right that now you work sometimes a little more part time?
I'm part-time now, but I
Yeah.
work part-time in Boston, Massachusetts, and I also do some fill-in work. I make maybe a couple of times a month for a bit for somebody on Saturdays just to get some work in there, basically. I do part-time because of I have a son and he's on a spectrum who basically needs a lot of my time, of course. So I have to be able to be flexible enough to go around and do what he needs to do. So this profession is great. I'm happy that I was given this path for this profession in order to basically be able to take care of my son in the way that he needs.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know?
That's great. So
Yeah.
this has allowed you a lot of flexibility in order to kind of craft your schedule and your work life to what you needed to in order
Mhm,
to support your son, who, yeah, I can only imagine. I know several folks on the spectrum and also
mhm.
other special needs. And that takes a lot of not only time, but also energy. There's a
Yes,
lot
so
of
we have
energy that
to
goes into that.
schedule like ABA services, schedule extra speech if we need to. I also want him to be more well-rounded as well. So I have him into the Special Olympics too. So which basketball starts this week. So that's extra practices and things of that nature. So I have to rearrange my game day schedule, which is Saturdays mostly. So it's going to be a toss-up, but it's doable with my profession I have.
All right. Very good.
Busy, but doable.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Would you consider those like that constant scheduling, like changes and the potential for that to be some of the tougher challenges that you have following this current work schedule? Or if you had to put a peg on what some of your toughest challenges have been in the profession, right? And getting to where you're at now to be able to realize the time that you need to support your family and your
Mhm.
son. What are some of those kind of toughest challenges that come to mind?
For right now, what you mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Of
or
course,
even getting to where you're at now.
toughest challenges is I would again, it's the timing because when I first began, I was full time, but now I'm not. So I guess as I think about the challenges, what something I have to do, and also be able to support my family. So those are
Mhm.
the challenges that I have to basically try to balance. Those are the toughest ones. That's
Yeah,
mainly what it is, the balance of trying to handle everything and still be able to take care of yourself and your family.
yeah, for
That's
sure.
the biggest challenge. Hmm.
Yeah, no, that's great. Because I think when we were talking before, and you started bringing this up, and it just said same thing I said to you earlier was that there's likely some people that will listen to this episode that are in similar situations where whether they have special needs child as well, or if it's something completely different, but that needs a lot of flexibility in
Hmm.
their kind of prime working years, essentially,
Yes. Hmm.
that they know that this type of lifestyle is doable. Obviously, you're still successful at what you're doing and able to support your family, but it seems like when you're in this type of situation, the bigger win here is just that availability and the time spent
Yes.
outside
Yes.
of work, I should say.
Outside of work,
Outside of
it's
work.
it's filled in. It's of course it's rewarding. It's filled in, but it's doable. It's doable.
Yeah.
is doable with this profession is because you can, of course, also knowing where to go or having the place where you can have the flexibility because some places they won't allow you to pick and choose your hours, but knowing
Mhm.
the right person sometimes helps and the right place to be able to choose your hours in order to fit what you need in. That's a big plus too.
As you were kind of getting into this part-time or flexible schedule, what was that like? Was it just keep asking around until you found that right person, or was there somebody that was
So
still in
how it
helping
was for
you
me,
with
it
that?
seemed like it was just like fate almost. It was I was seemed like I met the right person at the right time. It was
Yeah.
like it was weird that way for me.
Okay.
It-
It's
yeah,
strange how that works out, right?
it
It's
does.
because it
I'm like,
seems
wait a
to.
minute, this is gonna be fine because they're okay with my hours. And
Hmm.
also maybe because they needed a doctor right away. That also helps too when
Right.
they're looking for doctors too. Like, oh, if you can work these hours with me, I'm your person. So
Yeah.
that also helps.
Okay. All right. Very good. Is there anything else? I think, look, I keep coming back to this, but I think this is the biggest thing. It's like family is everything, right? But
Mhm.
would you call it that? Or is there some other like victory or success that has been really meaningful for you in your career that you've accomplished so far?
So far, family's of course my number one. In order for me to raise he's the best kid in the world. Of course, everybody says about their own children, but he's the best kid in the world for
For
me.
sure.
I love my profession. I meet different people almost every day when I do examine them. You don't know what you're gonna get. That's the excitement of the profession because you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Also, too, in the excitement of somebody like first time eyeglass wearer, they're like, "This is what the life looks like. This is what I'm doing," kind of thing. So that makes it really good. It makes it like worthwhile. Like this, I did that. Like I really did that.
Right.
That makes you feel good. Makes you feel good.
Very, yeah, it's very fulfilling work to
It is.
be able to change how and improve how somebody literally sees the world.
Mhm.
So that's awesome. Have you ever thought about, not like you would live in this space necessarily, but just on gratitude of where you're at now? Have you ever gone back and thought about what would life look like now if you hadn't been cutting open eyeballs that day and found this
Yeah,
path? And
because yeah, sometimes I do because I did think about going to traditional MD medical
yeah,
school, and I'm happy I didn't because it opened the doors where I can be this flexible with my profession and with my child, and I'm happy with what I chose. And I meet beautiful people. I meet excellent professionals, other doctors, optometrists, ophthalmologists, opticians. I think I'm where I need to be. And now I'm falling in love with eyewear.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the right place.
You talked about that earlier about how it was fate, and
Mhm.
it's funny how like we hear that. I think I don't know your personal experience, but I talk to a lot of folks either through this podcast or just out in the world, and especially like we're as parents and part of some special needs
Mhm.
communities as well. And you just hear that over and over that too many of those kind of coincidences or right place in the right time
Mhm.
scenarios to just be to actually be a coincidence, right?
How is this falling into place where I can get this done? So I'm
Yeah.
thinking it has to be fate and your faith in God. How is this working this way? And it works out.
For anybody who hasn't had that God wink, if you want to call it that, or that fate driven experience, a lot of times it's just keeping your convictions and keeping your goals in the forefront, put your family in the forefront, and just keep making the decisions. There's going to be some tough times throughout there for
Oh
sure, more
Lord,
than
yes.
likely.
Yes.
But
There we go.
you'll
Yeah,
stay on the path and you'll end up rising above that. I mean, do you kind of
yeah.
see that in your experience as well?
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Because sometimes you can feel a burnout. Like, oh boy, I'm just tired. But
Hmm.
then something opens up and it's like, okay, we're back. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Very good. So, what is with all of this and wrapping this up? I ask this near the end of almost every episode,
Hmm.
and it's just a piece of advice that you'd give to others that are on their journey in independent optometry and maybe facing some of the same challenges that you have faced in needing a more schedule that caters more to your personal life and where that's at right now. Is there a piece of advice that comes to mind?
Piece of advice is it's piece of advice I can think of. Let me see. Just keep going, keep trying, keep doing it. Ask tons of questions. Always go back to if you have a mentor that was in optometry school. They are your best also advocates and information people that you can talk to about these things. on that kind of thing. But other than that, just keep going. It's doable. Have faith in everything. Believe in it. It will come.
Yeah.
It will fit right into your schedule. It will fit.
There you go. That's where
Yeah.
you're going to find that. That's where you're going to
Yeah.
find it, where it all eventually aligns.
Yes, it
Um,
will.
Takes longer for some than others, but it will
Yes,
happen.
it will happen. For in the beginning, when I was working full time, it was fine. With part time, I was like, oh my goodness, who's going to fit my schedule
Mhm.
because of the diagnosis? I'm like, oh my goodness, and it worked out because I kept asking questions and reaching out and positive feedback. Also, to things like LinkedIn, it also helps. And your colleagues or your eyeball colleagues, they're great help.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mhm.
And a lot of times what I find in this industry and even in a lot of industries is that sometimes people just can't be afraid to ask and seek out that help, right? Because there's plenty of colleagues who have been in the business longer than you have who are out there who want to do good for the industry and do good for
Mhm.
other people that have chosen the same industry,
Mhm.
and they're ready and willing to help.
They are, but I guess like me too, afraid to ask. Even talking with you today, again, just not my comfort zone, stepping out here, but you sometimes you have to do that in order to get things that are needed. So
Yeah,
I
for
did
sure.
that. So I have a few mentors from eyeball school, optometry school, that I reach out to when I think I need something the same kind of thing. So are you new? How do you do this? How would like what would you do here? And they're always willing to help.
Nice. Very good.
Yep.
Sandy, we're sure glad that you stepped outside of your comfort zone today and were able to talk with us for this time. So thank you for sharing your insights and your experiences. I think it's been really helpful and to help
Okay.
more people through this mechanism as well. So thank you so much, and hopefully our paths will cross again here in the future soon.
I'm quite sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Uh,